From piles of straw once discarded after every harvest, farmers today are reaping bumper profits thanks to a simple yet remarkably effective method, turning leftover straw into straw mushrooms. But what makes this method so widely embraced? And what's special about the process of cultivating straw mushrooms? Let's explore it all in today's video. The straw mushroom farming model is especially popular across Southeast Asian countries, where the hot and humid climate, coupled with rice-centric agriculture, ensures a constant supply of leftover straw. Best of all, this method doesn't require major capital. With just locally available straw, a bit of technique, and a small room for fermentation, farmers can easily earn millions of Vietnamese dong with every harvest. The process starts right after the rice harvest, when massive amounts of straw, up to 70 million tons a year, are left behind in the fields. Farmers gather the straw and load it onto boats for transport via waterways, a method that's both convenient and much less labor-intensive than traditional hauling. The straw is stored in a dedicated shed that's been carefully cleaned and prepped, spacious, dry, and well ventilated, with durable roofing like corrugated iron to shield it from the elements. To monitor the mushroom growth effectively, farmers bundle the straw into small rolls and neatly stack them in rows on wooden or aluminum racks raised above the ground to maintain airflow. Then, they cover everything with a thick tarp to keep the moisture in. In just 10 to 12 days, the first white mushroom buds begin to sprout and grow rapidly. Each straw bundle can yield mushrooms continuously for 3 to 5 days, depending on environmental conditions and how well they're cared for. Each growing cycle can yield anywhere from several dozen to hundreds of kilograms of mushrooms. Straw mushrooms are known for their round caps, short stems, and soft gray or brownish hues. They're a favorite in both rural and urban kitchens, praised for their naturally sweet flavor and versatility, used in soups, stir-fries, and vegetarian dishes. This mushroom farming model comes with low risk, minimal complexity, and a quick return, harvestable just 2 to 3 weeks after seeding. Thanks to its flexible scheduling, farmers can grow mushrooms year-round without being overly dependent on weather. There's no need for expensive machinery or complicated cultivation techniques. With just a few simple and consistent care steps, farmers can grow high-quality mushrooms themselves. In fact, for many families, this model has become a main source of income, creating jobs and improving livelihoods. Statistics show that up to 80% of leftover dry straw after each harvest is burned, a practice that contributes heavily to environmental pollution. So, turning what was once considered agricultural waste into a sustainable, eco-friendly food source is not only smart, it's something rural areas should be encouraged to adopt. Before diving in, growers need a few basics: the right space, ideal temperatures, and irrigation methods. For example, growing rooms should be dry and well ventilated, with high floors and covered roofs for hygiene and temperature control. The ideal temperature range is between 28 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. Anything outside that range can affect the mushroom's growth. Especially during the fermentation stage, straw must be covered well to avoid mold and to prevent rapid fermentation. For watering, farmers use small nozzle hoses or manual spray bottles, gently misting the straw without soaking it. There are two common growing methods: vertical stacking and partition shelves. In the vertical method, straw bundles are shaped into upright towers, ideal for limited growing spaces or for beginners testing out the model. The partition method uses a horizontal layout, creating multiple growing compartments spaced about 60 to 100 centimeters apart. This setup works best in larger spaces such as mushroom houses or greenhouses. All in all, what started as leftover straw has become an ingenious solution for farmers to create stable income. With a process that's simple, affordable, and tailored for rural settings, the straw mushroom farming model is spreading quickly, offering a sustainable livelihood and a step toward greener agriculture. Have you ever seen fishermen using helicopters to catch fish out at sea? Sounds unbelievable, right? But it's true in certain parts of Europe and the US. Some commercial fishing vessels are now using advanced technology and helicopters to help them catch massive numbers of bluefin tuna more efficiently than ever before. So, right now, let's dive in and explore how fishermen are using helicopters in the high-stakes world of bluefin tuna fishing. The use of helicopters for bluefin tuna fishing takes place in parts of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Although this practice is restricted in many territorial waters, it's still commonly used in some U.S. states due to its high efficiency. Commercial fishing vessels will hire helicopters to work alongside them during offshore trips, with the main task of spotting schools of bluefin tuna from the air. Because tuna is a highly valued and widely consumed fish around the world, the use of expensive helicopters is considered cost-effective for commercial purse-seine tuna fishing operations. Helicopters are extremely useful in spotting tuna because these fish often travel in large schools while feeding. Typically, the helicopter takes off early in the morning and spends several hours in the air before landing back on the vessel overnight. The most commonly used helicopters for this type of fishing are the R-22, Bell 206, and MD 500. While airborne, the pilot and observer use the helicopter's speed and altitude to scan for signs of tuna schools. Once a school is located, the observers assess whether it's large enough to justify a catch. If it is, the pilot immediately radios the fishing vessel, directing it to the coordinates where the tuna were spotted. Today, these vessels are equipped with GPS systems that sync with the helicopter's GPS, allowing them to navigate quickly and accurately to the target location. At this point, the fishing vessels spring into action. You'll often see small boats equipped with large nets surrounding the school of tuna, while the helicopter continues to coordinate from above, helping to herd the fish and prevent them from escaping the net until it's fully closed. Once the net is sealed, the main vessel activates its advanced equipment to begin hauling it in, and the tuna harvesting process begins. One by one, the fish are brought out of the ocean and stored in specialized compartments chilled to around -3 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the tuna die almost instantly, but their freshness is preserved for maximum quality. Most commercial tuna vessels can hold up to 1,000 tons of catch, and typically won't return to port until the storage holds are completely full. These fishing trips usually last anywhere from 2 weeks to over 2 months, depending on the haul size. However, flying over open waters comes with many challenges. Helicopter crews must spend long periods away from home, often living in harsh offshore conditions for months at a time. Taking off and landing on a moving platform at sea presents serious risks, ones that many pilots may have never encountered before. Rough waves and small landing pads make landing on vessels extremely difficult. On top of that, operating in a marine environment puts stress on the aircraft itself. Salt water, humidity, and constant movement can cause equipment to malfunction. That's why helicopters must undergo frequent maintenance. Typically, each helicopter logs 250 to 300 flight hours during a single offshore fishing trip, making routine inspections and upkeep critical to prevent unexpected failures. With such high costs, many people might wonder, why not just use drones instead of helicopters to save money? While drones are certainly convenient, they can't operate for extended hours over the open ocean. Even more limiting is their restricted range from control equipment, making them unsuitable for covering large areas. Because of these limitations, drones are rarely used in commercial fishing operations. Instead, they're mostly used for sport and recreational fishing, where range and endurance are less critical. In commercial tuna fishing, the use of helicopters has proven to be relatively effective. It helps reduce the time and fuel spent locating tuna schools, and allows for more targeted fishing, minimizing bycatch. This increases the success rate of each trip and improves overall profitability. However, this method is not without controversy. Helicopter operations come with high costs, including maintenance, equipment, and crew salaries. And because of their efficiency, there's also the risk of overfishing, which can place unsustainable pressure on tuna populations. Due to these concerns, regions that allow the use of helicopters for tuna fishing are required to operate under strict quotas to help prevent overexploitation. After being caught, bluefin tuna are transported to processing plants, where they are turned into fresh meat products or canned tuna for the consumer market. In addition, a large portion of the bluefin tuna harvested and processed in the U.S. is exported to Asian markets. Currently, the largest consumer of bluefin tuna in the world is Japan. Due to the high demand, the country imports thousands of tons of frozen or whole tuna every year. The fish is mainly prepared as traditional Japanese dishes like sushi and sashimi. We are witnessing a massive vessel setting out to sea in Japan, clearly not an ordinary fishing boat, especially given its haul of nearly 10 tons of marine catch. That's right, it's a specialized whaling ship, designed specifically to harvest fin whales weighing up to 70 tons and capable of storing up to 700 tons of whale meat at once. Each voyage allows the vessel to operate at sea for extended periods, catching and processing giant whales directly on board. So right now, let's explore how Japanese fishermen process these massive whales right out on the open sea. To hunt these giant whales, Japanese fishermen need to use large vessels weighing over 8,000 tons, staffed by dozens of crew members responsible for locating, capturing, and processing the whales. These ships can operate more than 13,000 kilometers across the ocean over several months. The Japanese refer to the main vessel as the mothership, which carries out the core operations, supported by smaller whaling boats that assist in the hunt. Out on the vast ocean, the mothership locates whale pods using sonar or GPS technology, with visual confirmation provided by the experienced crew. The sailors use harpoons equipped with explosives to subdue or kill the whales instantly. Hunters aim for vital areas like the chest to ensure a swift death and minimize suffering. Once a whale has been caught, it is hauled onto the mothership, where it is processed directly at sea. After being hauled aboard the mothership, the crew begins the whale meat processing procedure. First, the thick outer layer of blubber and skin is removed using large knives and heavy machinery. The whale's body is then cut into sections to make it easier to handle. These meat sections are moved along conveyor belts, preparing them for the next stages of processing. The meat is sliced into smaller portions, immediately packaged and flash frozen to preserve freshness during the entire voyage. Higher quality cuts are typically reserved for premium markets or export. The whale blubber is processed into oil, which is often used for industrial purposes. Processing the whale directly on board not only reduces transport volume but also makes preservation more efficient. Whale bones are usually ground down or discarded after the meat is removed, and most internal organs are thrown back into the ocean to feed marine life, saving time on waste handling compared to land-based processing plants. When the whaling vessels accumulate between 300 to 500 tons of whale meat, they return to port to supply whale products to major supermarkets and stores. For a long time, whale hunting has faced global criticism, as it is considered inhumane and cruel, especially since whales are protected species around the world. In fact, since 1982, the International Whaling Commission has implemented a ban on commercial whaling. However, Japan has opposed this ban and continues to carry out annual whale hunts. So why does Japan still hunt whales despite the international ban? Currently, the Japanese government maintains that whaling in Japan is a part of the country's cultural tradition. Since the 17th century, the Japanese have developed whaling techniques. Beyond the main purpose of using whale meat as food, the Japanese also used whale blubber to produce oil for lighting and soap, and processed whale organs into fertilizer. By 1945, after the end of World War II, Japan faced a severe food crisis. At that time, whale meat became a crucial food source that helped save millions of Japanese people from starvation. A single giant whale could provide tens of tons of meat, making it one of the most heavily hunted species during that period. Although over 90% of Japanese people today say they rarely eat whale meat, and many younger generations have never tasted it at all, the country's whaling output has significantly declined compared to the past. Despite growing opposition to Japan's whaling industry and international calls for a complete ban, conservative voices still argue that whaling is a long-standing cultural tradition that should be preserved. Moreover, the Japanese government often claims that their whaling activities are primarily for scientific research. But regardless of the stated purpose, Japan's continued whale hunts are pushing the populations of these giant marine mammals closer to extinction. Today, around the world, there are many cultures and traditions that have existed for thousands of years within communities, some of which are valuable and worth preserving, while others have sparked controversy and criticism. One such tradition is whaling in the Faroe Islands, which has been practiced for over 1,000 years and continues to stir heated debate. Today, we invite you to join us in exploring this long-standing whaling tradition of the Faroe Islands. Every year, usually in July and August, hundreds of pilot whales and other small marine mammals are hunted by residents of the Faroe Islands for their meat and blubber. In past decades, people on the islands have caught an average of 838 pilot whales and 75 dolphins per year. In recent years, animal rights and wildlife conservation organizations have strongly condemned this hunt. While the tradition has not been completely stopped, the growing criticism has helped reduce the number of whales being hunted annually. The Faroe Islands are a small self-governing territory under the Kingdom of Denmark, located in the far North Atlantic. The local authorities argue that the whale hunt is an integral part of Faroese cultural tradition and serves as a valuable food source for island residents. This practice dates back over 1,200 years, originating from the time of the first Viking settlers. The whale hunting method used in the Faroe Islands differs from that of many other regions, and to those who witness it, it is often seen as brutal and disturbing. When a pod of whales is spotted near the islands, local men set out in their boats to surround them. By creating loud noises to frighten the whales, the hunters gradually drive them into a shallow bay or fjord where they become trapped. It is there that the whales are killed and harvested for meat. Many whales are hunted with harpoons if they attempt to escape the encirclement. The harpoons are thrown into their bodies, and the whales are then dragged ashore with ropes. Once on land, the whales are lined up along the harbor, where they are butchered by hunters and local families. Each hunter and family receives a share of the meat and blubber, distributed by the district sheriff according to a traditional formula. A single portion is typically enough to feed a family for several days. Although the hunt is officially considered non-commercial, some portions of whale meat are sold to local restaurants and hotels to serve tourists who are curious to taste it. Whale meat is considered an important part of the local cuisine in the Faroe Islands. As the islands are not well suited for agriculture, the production of grains and vegetables is extremely limited. In such conditions, whale meat and blubber have long served as vital sources of protein and fat. Every part of the whale is used, from the meat for consumption to the blubber for fuel oil. Whaling is not only a means of survival but also a symbol of the Faroese people's resilience and self-reliance. It reflects a strength reminiscent of Viking warriors from thousands of years ago. Although considered a cultural tradition, whale hunting in the Faroe Islands has faced strong condemnation due to its brutal methods and graphic scenes. Moreover, these practices directly disrupt the marine ecosystem by contributing to the decline of whale populations. Consuming whale meat is also not without risk, as it contains high levels of mercury and other toxins, raising serious health concerns especially for children and pregnant women. Today, whale hunts still take place annually in the Faroe Islands, and many locals firmly believe that pilot whale hunting should be preserved as an institution of their traditional culture. They argue that foreign criticism of the practice shows a lack of respect for the Faroese people and represents an unwelcome interference in the internal affairs of the territory. Although whale hunting still takes place, the practice has been modified to meet modern legal and social standards. The Faroe Islands authorities now strictly regulate whale hunts, ensuring that only licensed individuals may participate, and that all activities follow established quotas. Those involved must use specialized equipment and undergo training to ensure the hunt is carried out as humanely as possible. Nevertheless, whale hunting in the Faroe Islands faces increasing pressure and the threat of being phased out if a balance cannot be struck between cultural heritage and global ethical standards. Younger generations of Faroese people are showing a growing preference for sustainability over tradition, suggesting that this practice may not be passed down much longer.